Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It happened during one of those sweltering Phoenix evenings when the desert air feels thick with the smell of mesquite smoke and cheap beer. We were in the backyard of our double-wide in Maryvale, string lights casting shadows across cracked concrete, my co-workers scattered around folding chairs, with Bud Lights sweating in their calloused hands. The heat was still radiating off the pavement, even though the sun had dropped behind the mountains an hour ago. That's Arizona for you. The kind of heat that gets into your bones and stays there, like the burn from a welding torch that you don't feel until it's too late. Brittany, my wife of 8 years, stood near the rusty Weber grill, holding a beer bottle high like she was about to make some grand announcement. I should have seen it coming. The way she'd been acting different lately, staying late at the real estate office, talking about finding herself and personal growth. Coming home with that look, like she was disappointed by what she found there. But nothing prepares you for what came next. To finding yourself, she said suddenly, her voice cutting through the low rumble of conversation, like a plasma cutter through steel. And knowing when it's time to let go of things that don't serve you anymore, including marriage. The laughter around us died like someone had hit a kill switch on a welding machine. I was mid-sip, eyes still crinkled from laughing at something Miguel had said about the new supervisor. The bottle froze halfway to my mouth. Didn't move, couldn't. The air got sucked right out of my lungs like I'd taken a punch to the gut with a 4-pound hammer. My wife, Brittany, the woman I'd been busting my ass for 10 hours a day to keep happy, had just announced to a dozen of my closest work buddies that she wanted a divorce. Miguel shifted in his lawn chair, the metal creaking under his weight. Danny and Carl suddenly found their beer labels fascinating, peeling at the corners like their lives depended on it. The whole backyard felt like a construction site after someone got hurt. That heavy waiting silence where everyone knows something's gone wrong, but nobody wants to be the first to say it. "Britt," I said, barely above a whisper, my voice sounding foreign even to me. "What the hell are you doing?" She wouldn't look at me, just kept swirling that Bud Light like it was some fancy wine at one of those networking events she was always going to. "I'm just being honest, Wade. We've both felt it, haven't we? I need space. I need to respect myself again." "Respect?" The word came out sharper than a cutting torch on high heat. "Is that what this is? A performance for respect?" I knew these guys. Miguel had been working alongside me for 6 years. Danny and Carl, we'd shared lunch breaks and overtime shifts and complaints about management. They respected me because I showed up every day, did my job, didn't make excuses, and now my own wife was making me look like a fool in front of them. "I didn't mean it that way," she said quickly, but her face told a different story. There was something rehearsed about it, like she'd practiced this moment. "No, you meant it exactly this way." I stood up slow, setting my beer on the plastic table with the kind of deliberate control I used when handling hot metal. "You wanted an audience. You got one. Now say it again. Say it straight to me this time, without the beer bottle and the show." The neighbor's dog started barking. Someone's phone buzzed awkwardly against a lawn chair. The mesquite smoke from the grill drifted between us like a ghost. "Wade, don't..." "Say it, Britt." Her throat moved like she was swallowing nails. The confident woman who'd been holding court a minute ago suddenly looked small and uncertain. "I want a divorce." A few quiet gasps rippled through my crew. Miguel muttered something under his breath in Spanish. The sound of traffic on the distant freeway seemed louder somehow. "For what exactly?" I asked, keeping my voice level but unforgiving. You learn control when you work with fire every day. One mistake, one moment of letting emotions take over, and you end up in the burn unit. Because you make more money than me, because my hands are dirty when I come home, or because you just didn't have the guts to say it when it was just us? That hit home. I could see it in the way her shoulders tensed, the way her grip tightened on that bottle. We both knew she'd been planning this. The timing, the audience, the dramatic gesture, none of it was accidental. "Because I'm tired!" she snapped, finally meeting my eyes with something that looked like anger but felt like contempt. "I'm tired of pretending this is enough. I'm tired of living in a trailer, tired of your friends tracking mud through my house, tired of being the wife of a welder when I could be something more." There it was. The truth finally, not dressed up in therapy speak or self-help bullshit. Just raw, honest contempt for everything I was, everything I'd worked for, everything I'd thought we were building together. She made $52,000 a year at the real estate office. Marketing coordinator, fancy business cards, networked with people in suits. I made $52,000 welding steel at Phoenix Steel Works, but somehow her money was clean and mine was dirty. Her work was respectable and mine was something to be ashamed of. I stared at her for a long moment, and something inside me went cold and quiet. The kind of quiet you get when a machine stops working and you know it's not worth fixing. Not because it can't be repaired, but because you finally understand it was never built to last. So, instead of talking to your husband, I said, my voice steady as a cutting line, you humiliate him in front of the guys who respect him. That's how you found your voice. Her eyes started to shimmer, but she held her ground. I didn't plan this, Wade, but you rehearsed it, I replied, each word deliberate as laying a perfect bead. You don't drop a bomb like this by accident, not with this kind of timing. Miguel started to stand up, probably thinking about stepping in, but I caught his eye and shook my head once. This was mine to handle. Had been building to this for months, maybe longer. All those little comments about my work clothes, about the trailer, about my friends. Death by 1,000 cuts, until tonight, when she decided to finish the job in public. You could have come to me first, I continued, my voice carrying the weight of 8 years of thinking I knew the woman I'd married. You didn't. You made it a show. So, whatever you're chasing, Brittany, I hope it's worth what you just blew up. The party scattered like sparks off an angle grinder after that. Muttered excuses, awkward handshakes, truck engines starting up in the driveway. Miguel squeezed my shoulder as he passed. Didn't say anything, didn't need to. Danny and Carl nodded on their way out. The kind of nod that said they understood what had just happened, and they'd have my back if I needed it. Brittany disappeared inside the trailer without another word, letting the aluminum screen door bang shut behind her. I stayed out on the concrete slab, staring at the dying coals and the vapor, listening to the sound of 8 years quietly coming apart. The desert air was finally starting to cool, bringing that sage smell it gets after dark, but I couldn't feel it. Couldn't feel much of anything except this hollow sensation in my chest, like someone had cut out a piece of me with a torch and forgot to fill the gap. And that was the night everything split. But here's the thing. The worst part wasn't her announcement. It was what came after. The silence, the absence, the complete radio blackout. Because that moment wasn't the betrayal. It was just the beginning of it. I walked into the trailer, slow and steady, like approaching a live electrical panel. You move careful around things that can hurt you. Brittany was leaning against the kitchen counter, arms folded tight across her chest, like she was holding herself together, still wearing that blue blouse from her office, the one that probably cost more than I made in a day and a half. The kitchen was narrow, barely room for 2 people to stand without touching. We'd joked about it when we first moved in, called it efficient. Now it just felt cramped, like everything else about our life together. You could have said anything, I started, keeping my voice low and controlled. Anywhere. Why'd you pick there, in front of my crew? I didn't plan it like some speech, Wade. But even as she said it, I could see the lie in her eyes, the way she wouldn't quite look at me directly. That wasn't a speech. I stepped into the narrow galley, still calm, but feeling my breath get sharper. You raised that bottle like you were proposing a toast, then gutted me with a smile. That was theater. She turned away, bracing her hands on the Formica counter that had seen better days. Everything in this place had seen better days. The cabinets with their peeling veneer, the linoleum with the burn mark from where I'd once dropped a hot pan, the refrigerator that hummed too loud and leaked water onto the floor. You think that was easy for me? You think I wanted to do it like that? I don't care how easy it was. The words came out harder than I intended. I care that you did it at all. You looked me in the face, surrounded by guys I work alongside every day, and dropped a grenade in my lap like it was happy hour conversation. Her voice climbed, getting defensive the way it always did when she knew she was wrong. Because if I told you in private, you'd manage me, Wade. You'd make promises about how things would change, how we'd get a better place, how you'd get promoted to supervisor. Then nothing ever changes. We'd still be living in this trailer in 5 years, still pretending that $52,000 a year is enough to build a life on. There it was again. The money. Always came back to that. Not the fact that I worked 10-hour days in 100-degree heat. Not that I came home tired, but still tried to be present for her. Just the number on the paycheck and what it said about who I was supposed to be. I would have listened, I said, but even as I said it, Part of me wondered if that was true. Would I have just tried to fix things, make promises I couldn't keep? No. She whipped around to face me, eyes bright with tears she wouldn't let fall. You would have fixed me, Wade, like I was a broken machine instead of a person who's been screaming for years that this isn't enough. That hit different than I expected, because maybe she was right about that part. Maybe I had been treating her feelings like problems to solve instead of just hearing her. But that didn't excuse what she'd done tonight. I leaned back against the refrigerator, folding my arms. So your answer was to publicly dismantle our marriage like it was a safety meeting announcement. She flinched at that. Good, she should flinch. I didn't want to lie to our friends anymore. But humiliating me, I said, softer now, but no less firm. That was okay? You don't see the line you crossed? Her lip trembled, but her voice didn't falter. I crossed it because you don't even know where it is anymore, Wade. You think because you work hard and come home tired, that's enough. But I need more than a paycheck and a loyal husband. I need a partner who dreams bigger than shift supervisor. And there was the real truth underneath all the other truth. Not just that she thought I didn't make enough money, that she thought I didn't dream big enough, that the life I was trying to build with her, steady work, honest money, a home we could afford, wasn't worth dreaming about. I stared at her then, and for the first time in years, I wasn't angry. I was just done. Done trying to be enough for someone who decided I wasn't worth the effort. Done pretending that her vision of success was the only one that mattered. I don't even know who I'm talking to right now, I said. You used to act like coming home to me was the best part of your day. Brittany's shoulders sagged, but she didn't speak. Just stood there in the yellow light from the fixture above the sink, looking like a stranger wearing my wife's face. You said you were screaming in this marriage. I believe you. But I was in the same room, and all I heard was silence. You never told me you were unhappy with the money. Never said you wanted me to find different work. You just stopped talking to me about anything that mattered. She didn't look at me, just ran a hand through her highlighted hair. I didn't want to fight anymore, Wade. Fight? I laughed once, cold and tired. Britt, you declared war in front of 12 people. What did you think I'd do? Thank you? I thought, she paused, finally meeting my eyes. I thought maybe if I said it out loud, in front of people, I'd finally have the courage to mean it. That stung worse than I expected. I stepped toward her, closing the distance to nothing but the narrow galley between us. The air conditioning unit hummed in the window, fighting a losing battle against the desert heat that had soaked into the walls all day. Well, you got your wish, I said. You mean it now? She shook her head once, barely visible, like even she didn't believe what she'd started. Don't ever do that to me again, I said, voice level as a laser line. I can handle pain, Britt. I handle it every day. Burns, cuts, the kind of tired that goes bone deep. But not like that. Not where I still have to smile and shake hands while I'm bleeding inside. Her mouth opened like she had something to say, but nothing came out. Just stood there looking small and lost in her own kitchen. I grabbed my keys from the hook by the door and headed for the exit. I'll sleep at the shop, I said without looking back. Got a cot in the break room. Wade. But I was already gone, letting the screen door slap shut behind me. As I fired up the F-150 and pulled away from the only home we'd shared, the anger didn't rise up in my chest like I expected. It just settled, heavy and cold, like slag in the bottom of a furnace. What we had was done. Not because of what she said, but because of how little respect she'd shown when she said it. 7 days passed like a bad shift that wouldn't end. I sat in the parking lot of Davidson & Associates law office downtown, engine running, AC blasting against the desert heat that made the asphalt shimmer like water. Phoenix in August is no joke, the kind of heat that'll cook an egg on your dashboard and leave you feeling like you've been worked, over with a blowtorch. The appointment was for 2 o'clock. It was now 2:47, and Brittany was nowhere to be found. No call, no text, not even a passive-aggressive running late message. I'd sent her one that morning, keeping it simple and professional. Meeting still 2 p.m. at Davidson & Associates. Let's handle this clean. She'd read it. The little blue check marks told me that much. Left me on red like I was some guy she'd met at a bar instead of the man she'd promised 8 years of her life to. That was the final nail. I slid the papers back into the manila envelope, cranked the truck, and drove home to an empty trailer. The radio was playing some country song about heartbreak and whiskey, so I turned it off. Last thing I needed was someone else's misery keeping mine company. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the sun was hanging low over the Estrella Mountains, painting everything orange and gold like a sunset from a postcard. Her car wasn't there, probably wouldn't be for a while, if ever. Inside, the trailer was frozen in time. Half-empty wine glass in the sink, her work clothes tossed over the back of our second-hand couch like the ghost of that night. I walked into our bedroom, my bedroom now, and started packing. Single duffel bag, just the essentials. Work clothes, boots, my shaving kit, the watch my dad gave me when I finished welding school. Stood in the closet and looked at the row of shirts I wouldn't need here anymore. Didn't cry, not because I didn't want to, but because there wasn't anything left to squeeze out. The silence wasn't screaming anymore. It was just waiting for me to admit this was over. I locked the trailer, tossed the keys on the kitchen counter next to that wine glass, and walked out of the life we'd built together. No goodbye note, no dramatic gesture. Just the soft click of aluminum siding settling in the evening heat. 3 weeks turned into 3 months, then into something that started to feel like normal. Some days it still felt like I was just working a double shift and would come home to find Brittany making dinner, asking about my day, pretending to care about the bridge project we were behind on. But that feeling faded like heat off hot metal. Mornings became routine. Up at 5:30, black coffee with no sugar, because that's how my dad drank it, and his dad before him. Drive to Phoenix Steelworks through the same intersections, past the same Circle K, where I'd buy a breakfast burrito if I was running late, thinking about anything except what used to be. Work kept me busy. We were behind on a bridge contract for the city, and overtime was mandatory. Good thing, too. Empty trailers are louder than you'd think. Every creak and settle amplified in the silence. At the plant, there was always noise. The hiss of torches, the clang of metal on metal, the steady rhythm of production that meant progress. Miguel never asked about Brittany directly, but I could see the questions in his eyes sometimes. He'd worked construction before welding, knew what it looked like when a man's home life went south, would bring an extra sandwich sometimes, or suggest we grab a beer after shift. Good friend Miguel, the kind who knows when to talk and when to just be present. Most evenings I'd grab dinner at Rose's Diner on Van Buren. 24-hour place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that could strip paint, but the food was honest and cheap. Sophia worked the night shift there. Pretty girl, maybe 25, with kind eyes and a laugh that didn't sound practiced. Dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, moved with the kind of efficiency that comes from years of table service. We'd talk sometimes when the place was slow, usually after the dinner rush died down and before the bar crowd started filtering in. Nothing heavy, just easy conversation about movies or how much we both hated the summer heat or whether the Diamondbacks had any chance of making the playoffs. She never asked about the tan line where my wedding ring used to be. I appreciated that more than she probably knew. One Saturday afternoon, I was having coffee with Miguel and Danny at the Denny's near work. Strange how easy it was to fall back into the rhythm of just being guys talking about work and football and nothing that mattered much. No walking on eggshells, no measuring every word against some invisible standard of what successful men were supposed to talk about. "Man," Danny said, leaning back in the cracked vinyl booth, stirring sugar into coffee that probably hadn't been fresh since morning. "I haven't seen you this relaxed since you started dating Brittany. Remember how wound up you used to get about everything?" Miguel nodded, cutting into a stack of pancakes that looked like it could feed a family. "She mellowed you out for a while there. Then you got all tense again, like you were trying to be someone else." I stirred cream into my coffee, thinking about it. She didn't mellow me. I mellowed because I stopped trying to be something I wasn't. That caught them both quiet for a second. They didn't push, which I was grateful for. Miguel just nodded like he understood something he hadn't before. Still, I noticed how every conversation eventually worked its way around to her, even when nobody meant for it to happen. "You two working things out?" Danny had asked one day, careful not to sound too curious, like he was asking about the weather instead of the wreckage of my marriage. I shook my head, taking a long sip of coffee that had gone lukewarm while we talked. "She hasn't called, not once." The truth was, Brittany had gone completely dark after skipping that lawyer meeting. No texts, no voicemails, not even a legal notice forwarded through some attorney, Like she'd announced she wanted a divorce and then stepped off the edge of the earth, leaving me to figure out what that meant. For a while, I thought maybe she just needed time to figure things out. Maybe grief had its own language, and hers didn't include words yet. Maybe she was processing what had happened that night, regretting the way she'd done it, working up the courage to apologize. But after 3 months of silence, I stopped translating, stopped making excuses for someone who couldn't even be bothered to finish what she'd started. I told myself I was done needing explanations from someone who clearly couldn't give them. I didn't hate her, wasn't angry anymore either, which surprised me. But I wasn't curious about where she'd gone or what she was thinking. Some doors close and lock from the inside, and you learn to stop rattling the handle. Work was good. Better than good, actually. Without the constant stress of trying to measure up to some invisible standard at home, I found myself focusing in ways I hadn't in years. My welds were cleaner, my productivity was up, and I started noticing things about the operation that I'd missed before, like how the night shift was consistently behind because they were using an older technique that took twice as long, or how we could save money on materials by adjusting our cut patterns. Small things, but they added up. Started making suggestions to the floor supervisor, nothing pushy, just observations from someone who'd been doing the work long enough to see the patterns. 6 months after Brittany left, I got called into the supervisor's office. Figured I was in trouble for something, over time maybe, or someone had complained about my suggestions. But Jerry Kowalski, the floor supervisor, was smiling when I walked in. "Wade, how long you been working here?" he asked, leaning back in his chair that squeaked like it needed oil. 12 years come November, I said, still standing because he hadn't asked me to sit. "Good 12 years. Reliable, quality work, no drama." He paused, looking at some papers on his desk. "Night shift supervisor is retiring next month. Position pays $68,000, comes with a crew of 15 guys, some benefits upgrade. You interested?" 68,000. 16 grand more than I was making. 16 grand more than Brittany had been making when she decided I wasn't enough. "Yeah," I said, trying not to sound too eager. "Yeah, I'm interested." "Good. 2-week trial period starting Monday. Show me you can handle the crew and the responsibility. Job's yours, permanent." I shook his hand and walked out of that office feeling like I was floating 6 inches off the ground. Not because of the money, though, that didn't hurt. Because someone had noticed. Someone had seen the work I was doing and decided it was worth investing in. First thing I did was call Miguel, then Danny. We celebrated at Rose's that night, and Sophia brought us extra pie without being asked, smiling like she was genuinely happy for me. Simple moment, but it felt more real than anything I'd experienced in the last year of my marriage. The night shift was different, quieter, more focused. 15 guys who'd been doing their jobs for years without much supervision, and my job was to make sure they had what they needed and stayed safe doing it. Turned out, most of the time that just meant paying attention and not trying to fix things that weren't broken. 3 weeks into the trial period, Jerry pulled me aside again. "Job's yours if you want it," he said. "Crew likes you, productivity's up 8%, and we haven't had a single safety incident since you started. You're doing something right." I wanted to call someone and share the news. For a split second, my brain went to Brittany before I remembered she wasn't part of my life anymore. Wasn't anyone to call, really, except Miguel and the guys, and they already knew. That night, I drove around Phoenix for a while, windows down, letting the desert air whip through the cab of the F-150. Stopped at a gas station for a Coke and stood outside looking at the mountains that ring the city, thinking about how different everything looked from where I was now. A year ago, I'd been trying to convince a woman who made the same money I did that I was worth staying married to. Now, I was making more than she ever had, supervising a crew, building something that mattered, and the strangest part was, I hadn't done it for her, or to prove her wrong. I'd done it because I'd finally stopped being afraid of my own potential. Time has a funny way of proving people wrong, though I wasn't keeping score anymore. 2.5 years passed like 2 seasons at the Forge. Steady work that shapes you into something stronger than what you started with. I wasn't the same guy who'd stood in that backyard getting blindsided by his wife's announcement. That version of Wade had been soft in places that couldn't afford to be soft anymore. The promotion had stuck. $68,000 a year, crew of 15 guys who'd learned to trust my judgment. Benefits that actually meant something. I'd moved out of the trailer park and into a decent apartment in Ahwatukee. Nothing fancy, but clean lines and mountain views. 2 bedrooms because I could afford it now, and sometimes Miguel's kids would come over on weekends to play video games and eat too much pizza. Bought a Harley Sportster with part of my first supervisor bonus. Used, but solid. A 2018 Iron 883 black and chrome, the kind of bike that growls instead of purrs. Let everyone know you're coming and don't apologize for it. Spent Saturday mornings working on it in the parking lot, hands getting dirty in a way that felt good instead of shameful. Sophia and I had been seeing each other steady for about 8 months by then. Started slow, just conversations over coffee when her shift ended and mine was about to begin. Then dinners on my nights off, rides through the desert on the Harley when the weather cooled down. She was different from Brittany in every way that mattered. When I told her I welded steel for a living, she said, "That's honest work, takes skill and patience. I respect that." No follow-up questions about when I was planning to do something better with my life. No subtle hints about advancing my career or finding opportunities that paid more. When I got the supervisor job, she didn't ask about the money, just smiled and said she was proud of me for earning something I'd worked hard for. Simple response, but it felt more real than years of conversations about advancement and potential and all the ways I was supposed to be different than what I was. Life got simple in a way I'd forgotten was possible. Work, bike rides through the desert on weekends, dinners at places that didn't require reservations or pretending to be someone you weren't. Sophia would curl up next to me on weekend mornings, coffee cup in her hands, talking about her dream of opening her own restaurant someday. Real dreams, the kind you build with your hands and patience instead of just talking about over wine. I was a different man than the one Brittany had married, stronger in some ways, quieter in others. The kind of different that comes from learning you can survive losing everything that used to define you. More importantly, I'd learned the difference between being alone and being lonely. Alone was Saturday morning coffee and motorcycle maintenance. Lonely was trying to be enough for someone who'd already decided you weren't, which is why what happened at Luis's birthday party hit the way it did. The rooftop bar was buzzing with conversation, and the clink of glasses, downtown Phoenix spread out below us like a circuit board, all lights and geometric patterns. Luis had done well for himself since getting promoted to plant manager. This place probably cost more for one night than I used to make in a month. But that didn't bother me anymore. I wasn't measuring my worth against anyone else's success. I wasn't planning to stay long. Sophia and I had ridden over on the Harley, and she looked good in her black dress and riding boots, hair still a little wild from the wind. We were making the rounds, saying hello to the old crew, catching up with guys I'd worked alongside for years when I saw her. Brittany was standing near the railing, talking to some guy in a suit I didn't recognize. Her hair was longer now, style different, more professional looking. She'd lost weight, looked older, more polished maybe, but in a way that seemed like trying too hard, like she was wearing a costume of who she thought she was supposed to be. She noticed me before I could decide what to do. Our eyes met across that rooftop, and I watched her face go through about 5 different expressions. Surprise, recognition, something that looked like panic, then a carefully composed mask that didn't quite hide whatever was underneath. The guy in the suit said something to her, but she wasn't listening anymore. After a long moment that felt like hours, she excused herself and made her way over. "Hey," she said when she reached me, her voice barely audible over the music and conversation. "Brittany." I kept my tone neutral, not cold, not warm, just factual, like acknowledging someone you used to work with. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, same nervous habit she'd always had. "I didn't expect to see you here. Luis and I go back, worked under him for 5 years before his promotion." I paused, letting my eyes take in her carefully assembled appearance. "You look different." "Thanks, you too." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. There was something brittle about it, like glass that looked solid but would shatter if you tapped it wrong. "I heard about the promotion, shift supervisor. That's really great, Wade. Word travels fast in a small industry. Probably heard it from someone who knew someone. 3 years of proving myself," I said. "Turns out I was worth the investment." Something flickered across her face at that. A wince, maybe, or recognition of what those words meant. "I never said you weren't. You didn't have to say it." Silence stretched between us, filled with the sound of other people's laughter and the distant hum of traffic below. She glanced past me, probably looking for Sophia, trying to piece together what my life looked like now. "Are you seeing someone?" she asked, trying to sound casual but failing. "I am." I didn't elaborate, didn't owe her details about how Sophia made me laugh, or how she'd never once made me feel like I needed to apologize for who I was. She nodded like she'd expected it, but hoped she was wrong. "That's good. You deserve to be happy." "I am happy," I said, and meant it completely. First time in years, actually. That landed harder than I'd intended. She blinked fast, looking away toward the city lights. "Wade, she started, then stopped. Took a breath and tried again. "I've been thinking a lot about that night, about how I handled things." "Have you?" "I was wrong. The way I told you, the timing, all of it. I was cruel, and I'm sorry." I studied her face, looking for the angle, the manipulation. But there wasn't one, just a woman who'd figured out too late that she'd blown up something good. "I appreciate that," I said. "But apologies don't change what happened, or why it happened. I know, I wanted you to know that I realized what I threw away." Before I could respond, Sophia appeared at my side, sliding her hand into mine with easy confidence. No possessiveness, no marking territory, just natural affection. "Hey babe," she said, smiling up at me. "Miguel was looking for you." "Sophia, this is Brittany," I said, watching my ex-wife's face carefully. "My ex-wife, Brittany, this is Sophia." Sophia extended her hand with genuine warmth. "Nice to meet you." Brittany shook it, but I could see the wheels turning behind her eyes. Taking in Sophia's natural beauty, her comfortable confidence, the way she stood next to me like she belonged there. No anxiety, no need to prove anything, just present. "Well," Brittany said, forcing a smile that looked like it hurt, "I should let you get back to your evening." She turned to go, then stopped and looked back at me one more time. The mask slipped for just a second, and I saw something desperate underneath. "Wade, do you remember me? The way I used to be, before everything went wrong?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a bad weld. I could have been kind, could have said something safe about good memories or wishing her well. But sometimes the truth is more important than being nice. "Yeah," I said, meeting her eyes steadily. "I remember the woman who threw away a good man because she thought she deserved better. I remember the woman who was so ashamed of her husband's honest work that she couldn't even break up with him in private." Her face went white. Sophia's hand tightened in mine, but she didn't say anything. "I also remember," I continued, my voice calm and level, "the woman who disappeared when things got difficult instead of fighting for what we had. So, yeah, Brittany, I remember you. The question is, was any of it real, or were you just playing a part until something better came along?" She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. Just stood there, looking like someone who'd finally seen herself clearly for the first time and didn't like what she found. I gave her a polite nod, final but not cruel. "Enjoy your evening." Then I turned away, Sophia's hand warm in mine, and walked back into the crowd. Didn't look back, didn't need to. Some chapters don't close with dramatic speeches. They just stop being written. As we made our way back to Miguel and the guys, Sophia squeezed my hand. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, and realized I meant it completely. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Later, as we rode the Harley through the desert night, wind whipping past us under a canopy of stars that you can only see when you get away from the city lights, I thought about what Brittany had asked. Did I remember her? Of course I did. But I also remembered who I'd become after she left. The man who'd learned his worth didn't depend on someone else's opinion. The man who'd built something real with a woman who saw value in honest work and simple happiness. The man who'd discovered that sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is having someone walk away who was never really there in the first place. Brittany had wanted more than what we had. She'd found it, apparently. The suit she was talking to, the Polish, the life that looked good from the outside. But when she looked at me tonight, standing next to Sophia with my supervisor pin and my confidence intact, I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Regret. Not for leaving, but for what she'd given up to get where she was. She'd traded a man who would have walked through fire for her for whatever she thought was waiting on the other side. And tonight, she'd finally seen what that choice actually cost her. The Harley's engine rumbled beneath us as we headed home, and I smiled into the wind. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. Sometimes it's just becoming the man you were always capable of being, with someone who was smart enough to see it from the start. 3 years later, and Brittany finally got her answer to that question she'd asked at the BBQ. Do you remember me? Yeah, I remembered. I remembered everything, including the moment I stopped letting her memory define who I could become. And that, more than any angry confrontation or dramatic comeback, was the victory that mattered. Because while she was out there somewhere, probably still trying to convince herself she'd made the right choice, I was riding through the desert with a woman who loved me for exactly who I was. A welder, a supervisor, a man who knew his worth. And that was more than enough.